Hello guys, I'm very grateful that many of you are worried about the situation on the front lines, and I have some good news coming from the front lines in Russia. And by the way, please remember this tremendous change in the course of the Russian war, when in 2025 we have front lines inside Russia, not just in Ukraine, something that seemed totally impossible at the start of Putin's failed blitzkrieg. So according to the official reports of the Ukrainian armed forces, our troops managed to cross the border of Kursk region in another part, close to village Mykolaivka, securing an important bridge and in general protecting the Ukrainian region of Sumy. I think this is a great idea to create a gray zone, a buffering zone between Russia and Ukraine, but of course on the Russian side. Everyone here in Ukraine, and I think all the people who follow the events of this war, clearly understand Putin is not prepared for peace, for even a 30-day ceasefire. It is just Donald Trump who keeps repeating that. But in reality, Russia began its summer offensive. They have collected a lot of troops on the border, on the front line, but it seems like we are pretty effective in predicting them, stopping them, and actually entering back inside Russia to secure Ukrainian territories. You all know all we want is our 1991 borders. And with such actions, we remind the Russian population all they want is their 1991 borders and no explosions in dozens of Russian regions, which is the new reality. And this week was actually very loud and very hot inside the Russian Federation, with a lot of their evil targets demilitarized, Russian Su-bombers burned, Russian helicopters destroyed, arsenals, including the one of missiles in Bryansk region, and the air defense systems, more than 5 erased in Crimea, as it slowly but confidently returns back to Ukraine. So let's discuss these important weekly events, but starting with the Kursk Sumy update. My name is Anna, I'm from Ukraine, I'm in Ukraine, and if you want to see the defeat and demilitarization of Russia, the only working peace plan, subscribe, we discuss all of that on the channel. And according to the official reports, the Ukrainian troops not only managed to stop Russian advances in Sumy region, and you know that they've sent 60,000 of their soldiers or more in that really small part of the front line, and they are backed up by North Korean soldiers, the majority of whom were already lost during this Kursk special military operation. But anyway, we managed to stop them and actually entered inside the Kursk region of Russia in a different part of the border, which is another proof and demonstration, even for people like Donald Trump and J.D. Vance. Russia cannot control its borders. Russia cannot control its airspace. Russia cannot protect its strategic objects like oil refineries or military air bases, but we'll talk more about that in the second part of the video. Now we know that the Ukrainian troops control an area around a Mykolaivka village, by the way, a very Ukrainian name of that Kursk region. And it is important from the logistical point of view because it connects to some bridges, some roads, and now it is under the Ukrainian control, and hopefully people in Sumy and Sumy region will feel safer. Russians cannot advance there, but what they do, they apply this classic Russian tactics of scorched earth and keep targeting civilian buildings. Exactly what they did this night with more than 500 drones and missiles, combined attack on Ukraine with only one intention: to cause fear, panic, and more destruction. They clearly understand they cannot conquer us, but they want to keep terrorizing us, hopefully that we will demand a surrender. Epic fail, just as an epic fail of the blitzkrieg. If you want to understand more, here I connect a video from my new Anna Danilchuk channel where I speak why the strategy of Putin will definitely fail. And I hope that more and more people around Donald Trump will persuade him that serious sanctions, not soft sanctions, not, like this image of sanctions is needed, because the Russian economy is one of the very decisive factors. And this week, we spoke a lot about the symptoms of its collapse, starting with serious banking problems and that fact that Russians will be limited in the withdrawal of their cash up to $500, and that they have a lot of debts on their credit cards that they do not plan to return. And perhaps the most important proof of these problems is St. Petersburg Economic Forum, where the head of the central bank, Nibulina, where the Russian Minister of Economy openly spoke about the beginning of the recession. And trust me, they are talking about that in Russia. It clearly means this has already started. Thumbs up for that, and please subscribe if you're new and share these videos. That's the easiest but very effective way to demonstrate your solidarity with Ukraine. And I think there are a lot of reasons why it's okay to be with Ukraine, to stand with Ukraine, because in this world of chaos, unpredictability, and violence, we are a reliable partner, very determined to bring lasting peace in Ukraine. And that is why we keep targeting Russian military objects. And as we approach the end of June, we may officially say that June was the deadliest month for the Russian aviation, with 48 of their aircraft destroyed and just two Su-34 a day ago, and 2 more damaged. And these are bombers that Russians traditionally use to terrorize us. And also 3 helicopters were wiped out in Crimea. And this is so interesting how, like, even being a civilian, you start observing and you start analyzing war in a different way. And just during this week, days before the destruction of these helicopters and an important maintenance facility for the combat helicopters, and these are Mi-8, Mi-26, super expensive, like millions of dollars. But before that, Ukrainian long-range drones destroyed a lot of their air defense systems, the ones that work for detection, the ones that are multifunctional, and even S-400 launcher. And by the way, you might have missed that because we demilitarized a lot of evil deep inside Russia. We have also destroyed their Panzer system. This is missile launcher system. Every time I learn about a new object demilitarized inside the Russian Federation, I not only celebrate, the creativity of the Ukrainian armed forces that with limited resources can achieve that much, but I also think about lots of innocent lives saved. That is exactly what we do when we target their arsenals. And in Bryansk, it was really loud for a couple of days. One strike today, another one yesterday, and we of course targeted their arsenals, or should I say like warehouses. I don't know what's the best word for that, but it was a storage of missile fuel, and they typically burn and detonate in a very picturesque way, sending an important message to the Russian population: you don't want war, you don't like it when it happens on your territory. And during this week, traditionally, they had to close a lot of airports inside Russia. And by the way, that is another epic fail of a very important branch of life inside Russia, because clearly Moscow, St. Petersburg, Kazan, I'm not even mentioning Kursk and Belgorod, are no-fly zones, because Ukrainian drones are visiting to perform important demilitarization tasks. Russians are lucky. Perhaps right now on the planet, we are the only country that follows the rules of war. That's important, guys, because apart from winning, it's super important to remain human. And I'm sure you feel that in our community, in our comments that I always read before going to bed, or sometimes even during air raid alerts, and you make me feel more confident, you make me feel stronger. That's my psychotherapy. I'm sorry, but it works like that. So I see that despite all this violence, despite all the hard things and topics that we discuss here, we are good people. And that's what I can say about the majority, the vast majority of Ukrainians who keep thinking about different beautiful ways to save life, to learn more, to introduce various defensive technologies. And I'm always happy to learn that we work more on the Ukrainian ballistic missiles. You know, it was not our choice. Ukraine was actually a country to sign Budapest Memorandum. Now you mock that, you consider that a mistake, but actually that must have been an example to follow for others if this planet was healthy and if this planet didn't have people like Putin on it. But after we've learned this lesson really hard, and we have spoken about the return of the nuclear weapons, and I have a video about that on the new channel too, by the way, a very important one, and I made a serious research to film it, and there I tell you my personal opinion. If I were president of Ukraine, how would I treat this subject? But ballistic missiles like Neptune, like Sapsan, we are working on them because you see, Taurus we need, Merz promised, but there are a lot of such micro betrayals, or when Ukrainians have to wait, and I don't mind waiting. The war taught me to be very patient, to be very reserved, but this all costs human lives. And that is the price we should not pay. We did not deserve that. So investing in Ukrainian drone businesses, drone initiatives, and this kind of missiles that we can use without asking someone's permissions is definitely the future. Because I don't believe that any real negotiations with Russia are possible. It's pretty obvious that Putin is playing with Trump. Europe and NATO is observing, because of course it's always better to stay together with the United States, and they wait for Trump to make up his opinion. But Putin is tricking him, using this as a permission to keep targeting Ukrainian civilians while breaking his diplomatic isolation. Let me know in the comments below, do you consider any negotiations between Ukraine and Russia as realistic and normal for Ukraine in the coming half a year? Because maybe that's me, so like subjectively negative towards the topic, and I always love learning from you and seeing your perspective from literally different corners of the world. Sending love to all of your beautiful oblasts, and remember to follow me on other social media platforms, on Instagram, Blue Sky, Threads, and X. All the links that you need in the description of this video, same as the link to our Discord community and our merch shop, where we have a beautiful summer drop with some t-shirts that celebrate the spiderweb operation, the one where we erased 1/3 of the Russian strategic cruise missile carriers. Thumbs up for that, and remember to subscribe if you're new, because we have a really good, smart, strong community here, and it is such a blessing in the world of this informational chaos, and you know. Thank you for buying me coffees, becoming my patrons and sponsors of the channel, but most importantly, thank you for being friends of mine and friends of Ukraine. Slava Ukraini!